Thank you, Ajahn. I'm curious. It might not be such an exciting question for some, but I know there are a lot of people who are encountering Buddhism around the same age that you did, and who are thinking, "Oh, should I go to university or should I go to a monastery?" And I think, yeah, for yourself and myself, I was in university and then ended up deciding to leave university when I was in my early 20s to pursue monasticism. And yeah, you came to the monastery at a fairly young age. And I'm curious if it's possible to give general advice to people who are in a similar situation, who have just encountered Buddhism for the first time and are very inspired and are wondering about this. Like, should they stay in the thought world of Western 20th century, 21st century America, Europe, or delve into the thought world more deeply of Buddhism and like go to a monastery, which is a great place to do that? Or is there value in finishing up an education in the West? Like if I had finished my education in the West when I was in my early 20s, I wouldn't have had to come back now and do it in a sense. I'm certainly learning different things. But if I had stayed in university, I might not have made it to the monastery. So curious what you think about that.
Yeah, that's an interesting point, because you look at how people come to Buddhism in Buddhist countries. You know, if you're born and grow up in Thailand, Sri Lanka, these sort of places, people also have like different ways of really coming to the monastery. They might just do a temporary ordination as a novice or as a very young man, and kind of get a little taste of what it is like to be wearing robes and being a monk. And then they might go back and work or study, finish the university, and then later realize, oh, that experience was really worth it. I want to go back. And I know a number of, say, Thai monks who have done it that way and who have come back and then ordained as monks later on and stayed because they had an early experience of monasticism, and it's something that's sort of in the culture, it's acceptable. So I think we are in the West now, we are really at a different time, say, from the whatever 1960s, 70s. Now I think we are actually born into a culture, society where there's a lot of information available about Buddhism. It's much more accessible. There's the internet. You can also study, probably do courses just on the internet, learn Pali, do various things. It's much more accessible, available. So much younger people now in the West can gain access, and even physically go to a local monastery. Like if you live in Europe, in America, certainly there would be actual real Buddhist monks, living maybe not too far away. So it might be quite possible to actually, have that early acquaintance with monasticism. Maybe go and stay at a monastery, spend time there, extended periods of time, whether one actually decides to ordain or maybe do some sort of temporary, like an anagarika ordination, or if some places offer temporary ordination, that might be a good step. But then it doesn't mean that one cannot go back and finish, or at least continue for some time, the university education, because that will prepare one for just later in monastic life. One might actually need these kind of skills. It might be very useful. And I think we have to also just recognize that in the context of the Western monasteries that have been established, we can talk about it later, that how there might be different models or different ways in which people live the monastic life. So certainly, it's possible maybe to have quite an intimate and close encounter with Buddhism, even with monasticism, and yet maybe go and still finish even one's normal education, and maybe focus on something really related to Buddhism also.
Yeah, thank you, Ajahn. It sounds like a very balanced approach, and yeah, you're very right about the accessibility, and I definitely hope in this conversation that we'll get to the variety of monastic lives or monastic experiences that exist for people to tap into. Kind of heading in that direction, you talked about entering the thought world, or the world of Pali Buddhism through the Tipitaka, but you also learned Thai, and I'm curious if you're learning Thai, Dhamma in Thai, was different from how you learned Dhamma in English. Like, what is emphasized in from the Thai Kruba Ajahns or great teachers that you were reading or listening to, as opposed to the Western Ajahns who maybe grew up in a Thai system, but didn't ordain until mid-20s, late 20s, or later. And what are the maybe just comparing those two, comparing and contrasting the Dhamma in English versus the Dhamma in Thai that you were learning.
Yes, that's another good topic to discuss, because maybe because of my particular approach, when I came to England to the Anagarika, immediately, I was there surrounded by a culture that there were a lot of Westerners, but also quite a few Thai people coming to the monastery. We had some Thai monks staying with us, Thai lay people, and I was very curious, very interested in their culture, the language, and I felt a kind of closeness to that whole world coming from Asia. I was attracted to that, so I was trying to pick up, at least learn the Thai, the Thai language enough to be able to read, like, what's the title of this book, who wrote this book, the Thai characters. So I learned that pretty quickly, but then actually getting to speak Thai and getting into the whole language, that took much longer, because I wasn't really able, there was no kind of formal study program offered at that time in the monasteries in England. And so I didn't really progress very much with my Thai studies until later, when I went to actually live in Thailand, and then went to live abroad, but in sort of more Thai-based monasteries, actually places that were set up or run by Thai and Lao people. So I was forced to listen and interact with them every day in that language, and that's where I really picked up the language much quicker, being surrounded by that kind of environment. And then when one was able to, learn enough to just communicate and start to learn from conversations, then at some point I picked up a Dhamma book, and I tried to listen to some Dhamma talks. That was one way of learning. Was in those days there were just tapes, audio tapes, and occasionally we would get a tape from somewhere in Thailand, which also had a like a sentence by sentence English translation. They were quite rare to get, and you couldn't. It wasn't really word by word, but you could get a sense for the actual Dhamma phrases that were being used, and that's a really good way to learn, when you have to learn these kind of idioms and there's particular ways that Dhamma is being talked about in, say, in the Thai language. And what helped me, of course, was my previous study of Pali, because I think this was really great advantage to somebody who hadn't learned Pali before. I mean, just the spelling of all these complicated Pali and Sanskrit words in Thai script, must be terribly difficult to learn for someone who doesn't know Pali or Sanskrit to start with. But for me, it was actually very easy. Those were the easy words to decipher and learn. It was just finding out how to pronounce them in the Thai pronunciation. They change the way they pronounce these words. So I realized that Thai language, it's really, first of all, it's not a Indo-European language. It's closer to Chinese, and it really works very differently from Indo-European languages. But they have taken over a huge amount of words from basically India through Buddhism and Hinduism. So maybe more than half of the Thai vocabulary these days comes from Pali and Sanskrit. and just to see how the Thai language works and these particular idioms and the way that these words are being used. It's very interesting for me because I could really understand the whole kind of cultural background and historically how did these ideas sort of evolve, and what kind of role do they play in the, say, the modern Thai language these days. When you listen, say, to the news in Thai, they might still be actually using terms that come from our Pali Vinaya terminology, that we study when we study some Pali Vinaya texts, but they are applied today in the context of the let's say the Thai Parliament and various roles and functions that are being in the current sort of Thai parliamentary system, because they've just taken them over and used them in a new context. Sometimes they also change the meaning slightly, so the meaning has shifted. But it just gives you a very much more kind of deeper appreciation of a language if you know all these different sources of various ideas. And so that is one thing I can recommend. If people ask me, should I learn Pali first or should I learn Thai first? What would be better? Maybe it's quicker just to jump in straight into the Thai sort of world, and go and live in a Thai monastery and quickly learn how to chat with the monks there. Yeah, you can do that, and it's probably very useful because you will be able to talk about like practicalities of daily life. But what I've often noticed, even with some monks who have lived in Thailand for a long time and even learned Thai to a good degree, still they might make mistakes, or there's some misunderstandings, or say the spelling will be different because they misunderstand where did that particular word come from. They would have learned it in a Thai context only, and they don't know where that word originally came from in the Pali context. And sometimes I noticed a number of occasions, people will make will use it maybe wrongly or just misapply it because something has shifted or they haven't understood one particular aspect of it. So yeah, it just gives one a kind of greater depth of understanding the language.
Yeah, that's beautiful. As you were talking, I was thinking about, one of the most common words in political Thai language is Nayok, or like the prime minister. That comes from Pali, Nayaka, or like the leader or the lord even, like the Buddha was called a Nayaka. So, basically taking a name or an epithet for the Buddha and using it for the prime minister is an interesting way of, I won't necessarily say co-opting, but using that term.
Yes, exactly. It's a good example, that one, the Nayok, or there's lots of like Vinaya terminology that is applied in, say, the Thai legal system also, like like when somebody accuses somebody and the defendant and all that these terms are just taken over straight from the chapters in the Vinaya Pitaka, right, that discuss how to deal with arguments and all that. Yeah. But there's also there's also that aspect you mentioned of learning Dhamma from the Thai Ajahn. So that's one other thing I haven't mentioned yet, is that yes, just coming to learn Dhamma in the Western context, say in England or generally anywhere in the West, you notice how much adaptation there has been. When, say, you can first learn the Pali Suttas. So if you just go for the earliest texts and have a good basis in the Pali Suttas, okay, the early teachings, okay, that's a good basis to have. And then you build on that. You learn, say, learn about the commentaries and all the kind of later Buddhist teachings that came later. You understand the kind of historical development a little bit, how the ideas changed. And then, but a lot of people in the West, they just come to the Dhamma straight English, just get it in English or in German or whatever. some kind of Western language. And if you bypass that kind of linguistic aspect of it, I think there's scope for a lot of misunderstanding. I've noticed many times when you discuss some Buddhist term, a teaching, just say in English, and somebody will listen to it and they will like pick out one particular word and start to analyze it or make some conclusions just based on the English language, not realizing that this is just an approximation, really quite a crude maybe approximation to what the original, say, Pali term was. And people like that, they don't make the extra effort to say, maybe ask, well, what is really meant by the term? Maybe we need to go a little bit deeper and ask, what does this term really stand for? That would be, say, my approach. But if people don't realize where these words come from, they might be talking about, Buddhist teachings just based on English, really quite imperfect English terminology. And that feeds into their pre-existing, say, linguistic, but also cultural assumptions that come from a very non-Buddhist culture. So, or our sort of Judeo-Christian, ideas, terminology, or even if you come from like a philosophical perspective, all these different words that we use to discuss Buddhism now, you can't just sort of take them and apply them within that context, because they are just, all the references are to a different culture, different concepts. So it's almost kind of necessary, I would think, to have some kind of linguistic approach to fully understand the Buddhist teachings, until you build up that kind of thought world enough to really have a more accurate representation of what we are talking about, and even more than in the context of the Thai tradition and the Thai teachers, because the way it works in Thai is say Thai forest ajahns, they might be giving these kind of more informal talks, and they might not have studied a great deal. They probably studied some of the Naktam books. All the kind of knowledge that they have is really based on the Pali terminology, the suttas, the Visuddhimagga, some commentaries, and around that is probably a lot of just Thai culture, which again is based on, broadly speaking, Buddhist or Hindu ideas and a bit of animism mixed in. So that's the kind of context within which they speak. And now you have to be able to really kind of empathize with that and be able to understand what they mean. And if one translates maybe literally, like a Dhamma talk from a Thai Ajahn, and isn't careful enough, with the interpretation, it might lead to misunderstandings or maybe oversimplifications. And I think sometimes the early translations were maybe not so good, because people maybe missed out on some of the finer nuances of what they were talking about, and that was maybe the tendency to just make it feel like something Westerners will understand, making it sound more like a Zen teacher, or making Ajahn Chah sound more like a Zen master, when in fact he's really quite firmly based in that whole kind of thought world of the Pali, Tipitaka, commentary, Visuddhimagga. That's the terminology he's referring to.
Yeah, gosh, there's so much there. I mean, so you, by this time, have already learned, quite a few languages. You've gotten, glimpses into this world through German at first, and then through English, and through Pali, and through Thai. And in my experience as well, learning Pali and Thai, it just kind of rounds out this thought world that you're kind of getting more and more three-dimensional picture of. Like, even, it's wonderful to learn Pali, but just getting Dhamma from texts presents somewhat of a superficial and somewhat of a heady approach. Like when I was first learning Thai, I made a point to go through, those 108 Dhamma talks of Ajahn Chah way before. I listened to, I think, all of them, when I probably understood maybe 15%. But still, I could listen, and just hearing Ajahn Chah like talk to junior monks especially, it's like, oh my gosh, there's such heart to this, which you don't get a picture of, certainly not in the English talks that I was reading, or the Pali texts I was reading, or even the Thai texts that I was reading. Like in Ajahn Mahabua, you can read his books and just get this idea, or other Thai Kruba Ajahns who've been translated, get this approach that they're only extremely fierce, and this kind of, you have to be a warrior, basically like Green Beret type, struggler to be able to approach Buddhism. And when you hear Ajahn Chah just laugh, with the junior monks, it just kind of breaks your heart open.
Yes,
so
definitely, I agree with that. That the living contact with some of these teachers is also very, very useful. I learned a lot from just seeing them interact with people and how they teach. This is something which is hard to get just from the transcribed talks, from the books. One can, imagine various things about how these teachers what they were teaching. And then some of the English translations I would like to maybe point out. I wouldn't necessarily agree with all of them, and because I think some of the Westerners, even some of the early like Western monks or translators, I think they were bringing their own understanding of the Dhamma into their translations. And say one example is like sometimes there's like various metaphysical like assumptions about these sort of ultimate questions of Buddhism, ultimate goals. What is nibbana? What is it like? Is it what is the kind of pure citta, pure mind? What is it eternal consciousness, or is it what are the five khandhas like? And if you, even on the linguistic level, if one already has an assumption, what the goal is like, then one will tend to translate, say, a talk by a Thai Ajahn in accordance with that assumption. And so I wouldn't necessarily agree with some of these translations, even because I think people have brought in their own assumptions into those translations, and then other people just read them later in English, not even know what was said in the Thai, and make even more interpretation based on that, further strengthening their assumptions. So, for example, the way the word citta is used in Pali, in the flow of a Pali sentence, talking about the five khandhas, and then the word citta gets mentioned here and there, and somebody who doesn't understand Pali very well will say, "Oh, look, here the Buddha is talking about five khandhas. That's one thing, and now there's this other thing called the citta, and that's something else." But in fact, if you understand Pali and how language is used, how these terms are used, it might not be like that at all. It's just another word of referring, say, not just another way of referring to the same experience. And one time you can analyze it in terms of five khandhas in one particular context, and then two sentences further down, the same can be referred to as a kaya in citta, the body and mind, because that's just another way of referring to it. Say more everyday language would be like that. But then someone can look at this and construct a whole metaphysical theory about this, saying that there is this thing called the citta, which is something completely separate from the five khandhas, and these five khandhas are kind of surrounding this citta, and the goal of the practice is to liberate this citta from the five khandhas and make it into a thing. It's like reifying one particular concept or idea just based on maybe a linguistic misunderstanding. And the word citta, in the way it's used in Thai, again, is not the same usage as it is used in Pali. There's just one example that I noticed. Sometimes people making all kinds of interpretations, assumptions that are actually maybe just due to a linguistic misunderstanding.
Yeah, that's a great point. And even like another translation of chitta or chit is jai, like heart. that can be easily misunderstood. So having these multiple references and really, trying to get out of one's own biases around things. But it's hard when, even the texts that are chosen to be translated are based on some kind of bias of the translators, what is being chosen to be translated.